Enterprise Management 360.
Hello and thank you for joining us on this episode of Tech Chat. Now, we're on our second episode here at Big Data London where we've had a lot of great conversations. So let's get started with this first set of interviews. So now I'm joined by Paul Windsor at DataRobot. Thank you for joining me. I think a first kind of jumping off point is if you can give us an overview of what DataRobot is and a bit of history.
Yeah, sure. So DataRobot is an AI enterprise company. We've been around for 7 years. We were founded by two data scientists that worked in the insurance industry. And at the time, they recognized there was a lot of duplication and manual tasks that need to be done in order to build models. And if you could take away some of that manual task and that pre-processing and automate it, then you are increasing your pace of actually producing models that are identifying predictions, that are suggesting new outcomes to your organization. So the first indication was, can we solve that? And that's how the company was born. And now what we're doing is we're focused on three main areas. One is, how do we make sure that we can get organizations to a point of having models built with automation as quickly as possible, to start really focusing on where the business value lies? What are the predictions? What is the models predicting in terms of the outcomes based on business problems we're trying to solve? Secondly, we're looking at how do you get those models into production, because it's really important once you've built a model and it's giving you a prediction that's possibly going to change the outcome of your business, whether it be something to do with customer or something to do with the service or anything like that. Getting those models into production is just as key, so we help organizations with that whole deployment of models. And the third area is actually around how to monitor those models once they're into production. Because sometimes once you put a model into production, it might be giving you a real prediction that's changing some outcomes in your organization, but things will change, like competition might open up around the corner and your model might actually drift in terms of the way it was performing. So actually monitoring those models is really important as well.
So adding on to that, what does the future hold for organizations using AI?
I think first and foremost, companies need to understand that they need to move into the technology space of AI because it really does give you a competitive advantage. Those companies that are the first movers in this space are really reaping their rewards right now. If I look at DataRobot today, and I look at sort of three areas where we're really helping, one is around helping organizations provide a better customer experience, whether that's a service that company provides to customers or products that they sell. So anything you can do to improve your customer experience by deploying and embedding AI inside your organization, that's the first area. The second area is competition. And just looking around just the organization and the companies we work with today, it's hyper competitive right now. Trying to beat your competition is really imperative in order to survive in today's world. And so organizations today are using AI and DataRobot to be better at competing against those customers. And I think the third area is operational efficiencies. Companies today are operating on very thin margins. And so if you can do anything in the space of moving the needle in terms of being more efficient with the costs that you have inside your business, then that's going to help protect your margin and keep your business operating. And we've seen so many companies just recently, be able to close down simply because they're not using these type of capabilities.
So I'm joined now by Charles Southwood of Denodo. Charles, thank you very much for joining me. First of all, I want to get kind of an overview of Denodo and what your role plays in that.
Okay, so I'm Charles Southwood. I'm the Regional VP for Denodo, covering Northern Europe, Middle East and Africa. Denodo is a technology from a privately owned organization based in Palo Alto. We specialize in data virtualization. What that means is we create a logical data layer that allows you to aggregate data from disparate multiple sources through a single layer and provide that to the end users without them having to move or copy the data multiple times.
Yeah, one area I want to cover is how does data virtualization help data scientists accelerate data acquisition and preparation?
So we were talking earlier about the ability to aggregate data from multiple sources. So this gives the ability for analysts and data scientists to be able to access the data without having to spend a vast majority of their time collecting data. If you talk to most data scientists, maybe 70 or 80% of their time is spent bringing the data together and collecting it rather than doing the actual analytics. With data virtualization and the use of Denodo, you're able to access that data from source, real time, without having to make multiple copies of the data. This has a huge transformation, if you like, in terms of the ability to get the data, but also it means that they can then look at things like lineage, for example. Where does the data come from? How is it curated during this process? So they get the information quicker. So it makes them far more productive is the bottom line.
So I'm joined now by Clarence from Zoho. Thank you for joining me for this chat. First of all, I think it's a good idea to get a little background on yourself and Zoho.
Thank you, Max. Thanks for meeting me. So Zoho has been a product company for the last 23 years. So we offer a broad range of cloud-based applications covering a wide variety of business functions so that any business can run their entire business upon that, right? And the entire business applications are built on the cloud, ground up. So we have the entire infrastructure built so that we can do deep integration across these functions, which is our unique selling point of Zoho.
Excellent, perfect. So one area I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on to begin with is how does AI affect BI, basically?
That's an interesting question. So AI is very hot now. The new generation was enabled by what I call as the big data revolution. But that made computation much more affordable, machines much more powerful, that huge data can be analyzed, ingested, and stored. And that paved the way into what I call as artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is more computation heavy. That was enabled by big data. So that is now empowering business intelligence across the spectrum. We call this the generation as augmented BI, where AI is augmenting business intelligence to the next generation, right from data integration, modeling, visualization, generating insights, and taking actions. All these spaces are being empowered by AI. And that's why we call this as augmented business intelligence. This is the new generation of business intelligence too that is happening, and that's going to be the future.
Excellent. Perfect, thank you. So adding on to that then, with how important AI and BI obviously is as a combination, how can you use that to identify anomalies that alert businesses to issues?
One important thing about AI is basically it is a system where it can intelligently understand your data. Okay, it is not about only the basic structure that is being given by the users themselves. It can go through the data, understand the patterns of the data, and come up with better insights. So that's how AI is enabling BI. If you look at anomaly detection, let's say an example of a sales manager who's looking at sales. Okay, so the system can keep track of what is the sales has been in the last couple of years, right? And if it suddenly sees there is a spike in one region in terms of sales, that's an outlier. That's an anomaly. Yeah. So instead of the user trying to go and identify the anomaly, the AI system itself can say, okay, this is better than the average or more than the average that is expected out of the region, and flag an anomaly out of that. That's an outlier reduction. So that way the business owner can immediately identify what could be the reason. It could be a wrong input in terms of the data information, or some kind of a spoofing that is done in the kind of the business data that has been collected. So that's one way of trying to really enable people to identify things much more faster.
And that's a wrap here at Big Data London 2019 and also on this episode of Tech Chat. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for everyone who took the time to talk to us. Now, if you're interested in distributing your content across North America, APAC and Europe, then you can head on over to the Tell Us Your Audience page. There we can generate SQLs and MQLs right back to you. Also make sure you follow our social media at Twitter and LinkedIn, and also subscribe to this YouTube channel. And for more amazing EM360 content, go to em360tech.com.